Join me as we learn Chumash for Wednesday, Parshas Tetzaveh, the fourth Torah reading, chapter 29, verse 1. Yesterday we learned about the concluding garments that were made for the high priest and for the regular priest, 8 garments for the high priest and 4 for the regular priest, and the requirements of how they have to use them when working in the Holy Temple. Once we've now discussed all the vessels, most of the vessels, and as well as the garments of the high priest, the Torah now tells us about the installation rites and the training that would be given to the Kohanim to get them ready to working in the Holy Temple. Though this only happened later on, once the temple was dedicated, over here God tells Moses what and how it should be done. Chapter 29, verse 1. V'zeh hadavar asher tasa lahem, and these are what you should do. L'kadesh esam, to consecrate them. L'chahin li, that they should work for me. To be working as a Kohen, to be a Kohen. They're going to do l'kach par echad, you're going to take one young bull, ben bakar, the elim shnayim, and 2 rams, tamimim, they have to be complete without a blemish. Rashi, l'kach, k'moy kach, take. Ushtei gizresein, it's like 2 forms of the same word. Acha shel kicha v'acha shel li kicha v'lahem pitzrein echad. One means taking and you should take, and they both mean the same thing. Par echad, one young bull. L'chaper, why young bull? L'chaper l'masa egel shu par, to be able to forgive and atone for the sin of the golden calf, which comes from a cow, comes from a bull. Verse 2. V'lecha matis v'chalis matis, you're going to take also 10 loaves of unleavened bread and 10 unleavened loaves as well. Belulis b'shemen, which these will be kneaded with oil. Urikike matzes, and then 10 flat unleavened cakes, meshuchim b'shemen, brushed with oil. Soiles chitim, they should be made out of fine wheat flour. Tasa isam, that's the way they should be made. Rashi, lecha matzes, chalis matzes, urikike matzes. If you look over here, the kinds that have to be brought, 3 different kinds of bread. Hare elu gibel minim, these 3, revucha, v'chalis, urikikim. You find over here 3 different kinds of bread. You have 10 loaves of unleavened bread, you have 10 unleavened loaves, and then you have the flat unleavened cakes. Lechamatis, this is what we find that we're talking about, the lechamatis, a kriya lemata be'in chalas lechem shemen. This lechamatis, these loaves of matzahs, which we talk about later on, is called chalas lechem shechem, loaves of bread, unleavened bread, in oil. Al shem shenesin shemen b'revucha keneged achalas rekikin. It's because the amount of oil that he puts in is for all the loaves and for the flat cakes as well. All of these together, when they would bring them, there was 10 of each kind. While it's still flour, you needed it together with oil. There's 2 different kinds of oil that was done. After it was already baked, then you would smear oil on it. How would you smear the oil? You would make it in the shape of like a C, that you would brush the oil on it. Verse 3. You will then place them all into a single basket. And you'll bring it together in that basket. And the bull, and the 2 rams. Rashi, where are you going to bring it to? To the courtyard of the tabernacle. And this will all happen on the day of putting up the tabernacle. Verse 4. And Aaron and his sons you'll bring to the entrance of the oil mode of the tent of gathering. And you'll wash them and you'll immerse them in water of a mikveh. When it means washing here, doesn't mean they're going to take a shower. In fact, this refers to, Rashi says, this means immersing in a mikveh. Verse 5. You'll then take the clothing. You'll dress Aaron, the tunic, and the robe, and the robe of the ephod, and the ephod itself, and the breastplate, and you will then tie the strap of the ephod. What does it mean? You'll make sure that it's fastened, and you'll tie this belt of the ephod around him. Verse 6. And then you'll place the turban on his head. And then you will place the middle cord of the actual holy crown on the turban. which is from the forehead plate, as we mentioned previously yesterday, about the forehead plate that will go, the strap would go over the turban. Rashi, Nezer HaKodesh, this refers to the forehead plate. Ala mitznefes, Kamesha Pirashi, like explained previously. Lamaila, Yedei Psilam Tsoy Shnei Psilam Shabreishav Kshur Shloshta Mechere Erev Uneistel Mitzefes Kamin Keva. Like we explained in yesterday's Torah reading concerning the forehead plate, there was the two strings on the side, the one string that went down the middle that made it look like a cap that went on his head. Verse 7. Then you will take the anointing oil, the attack and you pour it on his head. And v'mashachta saying you will anoint him. Rashi, umashachta af meshicha. So too, anytime when we talk about this kind of pouring, was kamin chaf was done like a sea. Kamin chaf yivanis neisa shemen al reisha. You would put then the oil on his head, ubenisa einav between his eyebrows, umachabrim betzpay, and then connect it with his finger. That means once he starts to pour the oil, and then he uses his finger and pours and schleps the oil from one side to the other until he goes around to his neck like a hasi. Verse 9. Verse 8. As ban of takri v'lbashtem katanis, and also his children you will bring close and dress them in their tunics. Verse 9. V'chagartes amavnit, and you shall bring them, and you shall gird them with the sashes. Aaron of Aaron and his sons, v'chavashtalam mikbois, and you should put there, and you will put them on with their hats. V'haisalam kuhuna, and will be for them the priesthood, for eternity, for a statute for eternity. Yad Aaron uvanav, and you will then inaugurate Aaron and his sons. Rashi, verse 9. V'haisalam will be for them, meaning milu yadayim zeh, the very fact that you're inaugurating them l'kuhuna soilam, that by inaugurating them and educating them, this now makes that their children will also be the Kohanim, and they will not have to be inaugurated again. How is it going to be inaugurated, and how will they be able to fulfill their job? Is by doing all the things that we mentioned. Yad Aaron v'Yad Banav, the hand of Aaron and his sons, by following and doing the laws of the priesthood. Verse 10. The kraft sapor, and then you'll bring the bull before the tent of gathering. And Aaron and his son shall place their hands on it, on the head of the bull. Verse 11. Sapor, and then you will slaughter the bull in front of God, Pesach at the entrance of the tent of gathering. Rashi, Pesach Moed, what does it mean? The entrance doesn't mean literally at the entrance. In the courtyard of the tabernacle, which will be parallel to the courtyard, to the opening. That means in that part, which is on the entrance of the tent of gathering. Verse 12. And then you'll take from the blood of the bull, and you'll bring it to the corners of the altar, with your finger. And the rest of the blood you will then pour at the base of the altar. Rashi al karnes lamaila bekranis mamish, on the top on its actual corners. Veskol adam, meaning shiare adam, the leftover blood will be spilled at the base of the altar. Al Yiseda Mizbeach, Kimim Belitas Beis Kibul. Osri Loy Saviv, there was like a little frame, there was that would come out, like a molding that would be on the bottom, and that would protrude from the altar, and that after 1 amma off the ground, that's where they would pour it. After amma above the ground, there was a protrusion, and by that area, that was considered the foundation of the altar, and that's where they would pour the blood. Verse 13. And then you will take the entire membrane of fat that covers over the bull's innards, and as well as the diaphragm and the part of the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and the fats that's around them, and you will burn them on the altar. Rashi, Hu akrum, that's the membrane, shalakeres, that's on the stomach, shakoirin tila, which is called tila in that language, membrane. Vesa yeseres, over here Rashi refers to what the rabbis called tarpisha dechavda, when we talk about in the Talmud, when it refers to the part of meat, the part of the fat that is between the liver and the other parts of there, he calls it tarpasha de chavda, which that would be the diaphragm of the liver. Ala kaved, on the liver, meaning af min kaved hitel ima, so too take the liver with it. Verse 14. Ves psara por, and then the flesh of the bull, ves oire, and its skin, together with its hide, ves pirshay, and its waist, tisreif be'esh, will be burned out. Where will it be burned? In fire, mechutz lamachana, outside the camp. Chatasu, this will be considered a sin offering. 14, tisreif be'esh, what is it telling us here? This was only a temporary ruling because we don't find anywhere else that a sin offering should be burned outside the camp. Elazu, only this case that was done by the calf, by the bull that was brought by the inauguration of Aaron and his sons. We continue on to verse 15. Remember, there were 2 rams that were brought as well. So now the first ram, Tikach, he was going to take, and Aaron and his sons will then place their hands on the first ram. Verse 16, then you will then slaughter this ram, and you will take its blood, and you'll throw it onto the altar all around it. V'zarakta, how are you going to throw it? Bikli, you must use a vessel. How is this done? Oichiz b'mizrak, a Kohen stands on the bottom using a bowl, and throws it towards the corner. The blood should be seen on both sides of the corner. When a sacrifice is brought, we don't find that it's done with a finger. As we find in the Holy Temple when it was done on Yom Kippur, that he used a finger to sprinkle the blood. This was only, over here saying you should use a vessel. The only time a finger was used was by a sin offering. The other offerings, they would not use a horn or a finger. It would be shematan damim mechatzim mizbeach lamata, because when they would spill the blood, when they would sprinkle the blood, it was only on the lower part of the altar. He wouldn't have to go up a ramp. There was a small ramp on the side of the altar that if he had to sprinkle it higher. But this, he would stand from where he is and just throw it on the wall of the altar with a vessel. The only one that was used with a finger was a sin offering, and that at times he would have to go up the ramp, and this is all discussed already in the book of Leviticus, as we'll get to it at a later time. Saviv, kach mefurish b'shchitas kachim. This is the way it's explained in the tractate of Zvachim. She'ein saviv, the word saviv around el shtei matana shein arba. It's talking about 2 times that he actually threw the blood, but it was like 4 because it went on both sides. Ha'achas bekeren zavazu. One was on one corner of achas bekeren shoconnected about lachsin, and one was on the opposite angle corner. So one he did on the northeast, and then on the southwest as well. The chol matana v'nidis. Whenever we talk about that they would be throwing the blood, was talking about that he did on both sides of the corner, but on both sides. The blood was then on all 4 sides. Like Achkar Saviv, therefore it's called around, because you're able to see the blood on all 4 corners. He actually threw it on 2 sides, but you're able to see the blood from all 4 sides. Verse 17. The actual ram then you will cut into sections. And then you will wash its innards and its leg. And then you will place the innards together with the other pieces and its head. Rashi al nesachav im nesachav, together with the other pieces. Musaf al shanar nesachim, together with all the other pieces that you already cut. You're going to take the innards and place them together. Verse 18. And then you shall burn the entire ram on the altar. Oilahu, this is considered an ascent offering. Lashem, to God. Reach nichoyach, this will be a pleasing isha or pleasing offering. Lashemhu, to God, it is considered very pleased. Reach nichoyach, the word reach nichoyach, what does it mean? A pleasant smell. Nachas ruach, does God get pleasure from meat burning? What does that really mean, a pleasant smell to God? So Rashi explains, Nachas ruach lefonai. I get pleasure from the fact, Sha'amarti, that I told you what to do, V'nasa ritzoni, and you followed my desires. Isha, the word Isha means, L'shein Eish, comes from a fire. V'yak Torah sevarim shaleish, meaning a sacrifice to God. As the Torah concludes, this Torah reading, doing what God wants, gives God nachas. This concludes the fourth Torah reading for Parshas Tetzaveh.